And we are live. Welcome back. Our guest today, Brad Codd. He's an ex-Uber driver. We've got a great topic for today. Another reason to vote no on Proposition 22, the true pay and benefits for full-time drivers. So according to the New York Times, nearly 3/4 of gig laborers work 30 hours a week or more. They are already effectively full-time, but they enjoy virtually none of the protections that full-time employees do. In this interview, we'll define the compensation and benefits that Proposition 22 is proposing, citing 3 separate studies. We'll translate the propaganda doublespeak into plain English and reveal the real numbers for compensation and benefits. So I welcome Brad Codd. Brad started driving full-time for Uber and Lyft in 2017 and completed more than 10,000 rides. He is the founder and past president of the Lyft Drivers of Orange County, a trade association who helped hundreds of drivers maximize their rideshare driver earnings. Today, he is an executive member of Robin Hood Nation, a political activist organization who is helping drivers stand up against the exploitative business tactics of greedy Uber. Very cool. So Brad, let's start with the actual wording for Proposition 22's compensation and benefits. What are the numbers?
Thank you, Torsten. Yeah, it's great to be on your show again.
Nice to have
really
you.
appreciate the opportunity to share this very important information with your listeners. So Prop 22 would maintain workers as independent contractors, with some wage guarantees and a pool of money that certain workers could use to help them pay for healthcare costs and sick days. Gig workers would be eligible for an hourly pay of 20% higher than local minimum wage, plus 30 cents per mile, but only during engaged times.
Very
so
important.
that's the essence of the compensation and expense reimbursement that drivers can expect when Prop 22, with Prop 22.
So I mean this, it's only for, a lot of people say, well, 120% of minimum wage, that's not bad. And then people throw out, let's say LA's numbers of $13, 120% of that. That's not too bad. No, it's not. It's only for the time you're on the clock and you have an active rider in your car and you're on a trip, right? And Brad, they don't count in the time it takes to eat, to refuel, to disinfect your car, to stretch, take a break, wait for the next. All of that's not factored in, right?
It's not factored in. Waiting for the next ride, and sometimes that can be significant depending on the time of day. Absolutely. And the location that you're in. Sometimes, as a driver, I'd end up in a terrible location, and then I'd have to backhaul for like half an hour, 45 minutes, as much as an hour sometimes.
Yeah. And
I'm not getting paid, and I'm driving. Yeah. So it's not just I'm burning my time. I'm actually burning miles on the car because I've, from Orange County, I'd get a ride out to Palmdale, and then there's nobody there, so I have to backhaul to Orange County to pick up, get into the area where there's enough people to pick up the next ride.
Exactly.
That completely wrecked my averages for that shift.
Yeah. No, totally. I relate to that.
Bare minimum, getting by, and then all you needed is one bad ride like that, and boom, it makes the entire shift, a loss.
And people know exactly what one bad ride means. That's one ride off into the boonies, and then you're way out there, and you're just like, there's nothing happening out here. What do I do now? Oh gosh, I got to backtrack all the way. And there's a very, very...
I called it backhauling. I hated it, but it's just the cost of doing business.
Exactly.
So, on the surface, these numbers for Prop 22 sound very appealing.
Yeah.
But they're misleading because, when you talk about minimum wage, plus 20%, it's like, wow. But of course, and this is where the wordsmithing and the trickery and the manipulation happens, because people think that, minimum wage plus 20%,
Yeah.
a 40-hour work week, wow, okay?
Yeah.
But no, okay? We'll get into the numbers in a bit.
Right.
But
so
it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, because that rate sounds amazing, except that it's for a significant subset of the hours that people actually work. A lot of the hours, a significant amount of the hours, are just discounted and not paid for. So that dilutes that attractive sounding number drastically.
So true. And then, so on the surface, the numbers look very appealing, as you said, right? But how exactly are the numbers misleading? I mean,
well, the specific wording that makes a lie of all the numbers is the key phrase, only during engaged times.
Yeah.
I'll say that again. Only during engaged times. Engaged times means that the time starting from when a driver accepts a ride and finishing when a driver drops off their passenger. Right. When you factor that in, fully 1/3 to 1/2 of a driver's time and miles driven are excluded from engaged times. Yeah. All compensation referred to in Prop 22 has to be reduced by at least 1/3 or as much as a half. So, for the LA area, minimum wage plus 20% is $15.60 per hour, which sounds generous, but it's effectively reduced to a minimum of $10.40 per hour, or possibly even as low as $7.30 an hour. And both of these rates are below the legal minimum wage. Yeah. Whichever way you slice and dice it, it's not fair.
And I've heard from some sources, maybe even as low as, depending when you're driving, of course, right down to about $5.65 per hour. So there's, $5.65 best case scenario, $10. That's still way off from the 15 you think you're getting. Well,
Well, it's way below the legal minimum wage. Okay, yeah. And it gets worse because of the engaged time sleight of hand that they're using. And again, it's based on a 30-hour week, okay, to qualify for benefits.
Right.
So if you less than 30 hours, you don't get any benefits. So all of those things.
And by the way, those are 30 hours that you actively driving.
Thank you. Again, this exaggerated time.
Yeah.
Sleight of hand definition.
So,
it translates into a minimum of 45 hours a week.
Exactly.
If you consider 1/3 of the time is dead. Yes. But if half of your time is wasted, then you have to work 60 hours a week to qualify for the benefits.
Yeah, 100%. You have to do at least 55 to 60 hours a week to even, qualify. And this is what they're selling the Californians. Oh, they're getting these health benefits. It's complete BS. This is such an easy selling point to a rider in the car. You got to use that type of math, right, Brad? You got to make it very clear. Hey, the language says this is what they're saying. But if you translate it, it actually, in our world, in the real world, it means this. So
exactly.
It's very, very important. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
There's two ways that this has to be thought of. Okay, one is your effective compensation is being reduced by 1/3 to 50%, 1/3 to a half, or you have to work 1/3 or 50%, or actually double. You have to work 50% more or double more amount of time to basically
qualify for those.
Translate these numbers into a regular 40-hour work week. So when people hear these numbers, they think in terms of a 40-hour work week, like everybody else out there, but because of the engaged times shenanigans, it results in dramatically less pay if people only work 40 hours, or they have to work a lot more hours to actually hit these numbers, to achieve these numbers.
Right. So,
Brad, very
Brad,
deceptive.
Very deceptive, yeah. And so what are the findings of the UC Riverside study? We'd spoken about this before. Maybe you could clarify this to the listeners.
Yeah, so just because it's an issue that we've covered before, I'll just go over it briefly just to bring it to top of awareness for folks. This UC Riverside researchers estimate an effective rate of $25 to $27 an hour in a study that unfortunately is commissioned by Lyft and DoorDash. Okay?
So they paid for that.
It factors in, well, they paid for it, and it factors in substantially less wait time and expenses than what drivers actually incur. So based on my personal experience, I outright refute this estimate. Not even back in the heyday, early years of rideshare, where there were surges and productivity bonuses and all sorts of things to attract drivers to be working. We never saw those sort of sustained rates on a sustainable basis.
Right.
It was, you could hit them every now and again, but it definitely wasn't the norm. And for them to represent here that this is going to be the new normal, forget about it. It's just a fantasy.
And you know what's interesting, Brad? I mean, you mentioned what Lyft and DoorDash were behind the study, right? Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, they paid for it.
So they contact a couple of colleges or universities and say, listen, here are the parameters, here are the numbers. We want you to we'll pay you to do a study based on this is not an independent study. This is a study based on the numbers provided by Lyft and DoorDash. So they're controlling the outcome. So I would just say Riverside must have been pretty desperate for some cash if they got involved in that study. That's all I can say, And I mean, you've got to read between the lines here, right?
Yeah, it's interesting how they control the input. They're working with people doing research that are not drivers, that have no experience in the industry, and basically they take, what Uber and DoorDash gave them at face value, and in their minds, they gave an honest assessment based on the data that they were given.
Right.
But of course, we know in the computer industry, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
If you start off with bad information, you end up with a bad answer.
Yeah. And then, so what are the findings of the Legislative Analyst's Office study? That was another study that was done.
That's right, yeah. So this study estimates that an effective rate of $11 to $16 per hour. Okay, and this was a study conducted by a non-partisan state agency. Okay. They assert that most drivers will make this amount of money after expenses and wait time.
Okay.
And, well, this is a middle of the road. And I'd say it's possible, okay? At least it's within the realm of possibility.
Right.
The UC Riverside one, forget about it. It's just completely unrealistic. This one, they could be right. We'll only know once we actually run it for a while and get the real data. But
the one that I'm looking at,
study is pretty reasonable.
The one that I look at quite often. What are the findings of the Labor Center at UC Berkeley study? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, this is a very detailed study, and this is the one that should really be a significant concern to everyone.
Yes.
So Ken Jacobs, the chair of the Labor Center at UC Berkeley, in their study on Prop 22, estimates that after wait time and expenses, drivers could make as little as $5.64 per hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's shocking.
There's no doubt. If this study is correct, drivers would be much, much worse off under Prop 22 than they are under the current AB5 legislation.
Yeah.
That's a real concern.
And I mean, this is way below anything in 2020 in the pandemic times, way below anything they were earning in 2019. I mean, these are rock bottom numbers here. I mean, I would guess if the people that bought into yes, right, they got, let's say they got misled on yes, and then they crunched the numbers, let's say yes passes, God forbid, and then you find yourself close to these UC Berkeley study numbers. I mean, people will be leaving left, right, and center. I mean, it would be only the real desperados would drive for those rates.
And that's the problem, okay? already the attrition rate is extremely high.
Yeah.
For this kind of work. I've heard numbers of as much as 90% of the people who start out as a rideshare driver don't last very long. Okay, so if these are the real numbers, the guys that are doing a really good job and are really contributing to the system and the network and making this all happen and all work, they're going to get flushed. They're going to have to go somewhere else to earn enough money to be able to pay their rent and pay their living expenses.
I mean, they have a massive, massive turnover. I'll tell you something. The reason why I know so many people drop out, definitely one of the top referrers, right? And I stopped referring in mid 2019. But I was signing up hundreds of drivers each month, and I was watching their progress on my back end manager because I needed them to get over the finishing line 50 or 100 trips before they got their guarantee and before I got my bonus. And I would see people stop at 20 trips, at 50 trips, at 60 trips. They wouldn't get to the 100 trips, and I would say, hey, listen, you're pretty close. You're only about 25 trips away. Why not finish up? I'll gladly give you a part of my bonus. And they said, listen, it's just the numbers just don't make sense. I tried this out for 2 or 3 weeks. I'm moving on. And there were only very, very few people that I could always push over the finishing line. So I knew that the burn rate was extremely high, that the people went in with, sort of like a false bait and switch type of sale. They were promised all these numbers. And then they realized quickly.
They believed advertising.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
So
Uber had billboards. Telling people how much money they could earn.
Correct.
Yeah, and people are not stupid. As much as Uber thinks that they're attracting stupid people that can't do arithmetic, it's not true. People see these billboards that tell them how much they can earn, and then they try it for a week or 2 or 3, and they come nowhere even close. It's not like they just slightly miss.
Exactly.
It's not even in the same ballpark. It's like a third or a half of what Uber is claiming that they can do. And people are not stupid. It's like, well, this is not going to work out. And then they move on.
Exactly. So I had one last question. Is there anything that they aren't talking about in Proposition 22 that worries you?
Oh, that's a broad question. So actually, yes. I'm really concerned that Prop 22 is redefining independent contractors to be a unique new category of worker. Whenever, from a legal point of view, just as a general principle now, not specifically Prop 22, when you try and take something and redefine what it is, there are all sorts of unintended consequences. Just as a general rule of thumb way of looking at things. So whenever I see somebody trying to change the meaning of something that has been around for many, many years and is well understood and has a large body of case law supporting it, the alarm bells immediately go off, because just too often in the past that resulted in unintended consequences, and then everybody's a lot worse off. Thought it was a good thing, but it never turns out to be a good thing in my experience. So that's at a high level what I'm concerned about. According to a recent study conducted by the Pay Up campaign in collaboration with some legal experts, Prop 22 will give Uber a significant degree of control over workers, where they can be treated more like employees that avoid having to pay them benefits.
Right.
Okay. So that's my just sort of generic high-level concern of coming up with a new definition of what an independent contractor is. They're basically trying to carve out an exception for themselves, and we don't know what the implications are.
Right.
But historically, that's always been dangerous.
Right. And I mean, they're not paying into the system. They have all their offshore accounts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
into.
The state is not seeing any money here. I mean, there's nothing paid into the unemployment fund. There's nothing paid into this pandemic fund. There's nothing paid, when it comes to wear and tear of the roads, bridges, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, they're just literally milking the state. And I mean, I understand that, Javier Becerra, the state, California Labor Board, I mean, they're furious, right? Because Californians have had enough.
Milking drivers and milking the state. It's like, man.
Two sides, exactly. Well,
there's three big questions that every full-time driver should be asking themselves, okay? Question number one is Greedy Uber going to be guaranteeing drivers that they'll still receive surges and prime time?
Right.
I don't know, Torsten, have you heard anything about this?
No, I just heard from a very reliable inside source who's working at Uber, and obviously those conversations are private. I've made so many videos where I always said, please step forward. I'll keep your name. I have one lady at Lyft, one guy at Uber that I talk to every now and again and get some done. But the multiplier, according to this individual, is gone. Right? Yes.
That was my second question.
Yeah, the multiplier.
That's a significant. Yeah, that's a significant portion of people's compensation, isn't it?
Oh, huge. I mean, I know probably 5-6 drivers that on Friday and Saturday they put in a full day. They do not take the pedal off 5x. They just leave it on 5x, and the guys are doing 16, 17 hours. Right, that's with downtime, etc. Clocking on average 15 to 20 trips and making anywhere from $700 to $900 because of the multiplier, and they're happy.
Wow,
happy. But I said
to them, they're happy. That's real money. That's worth it. And
then the two of the three said, well, that's going to carry on. So obviously I would be supporting yes. The other three said, the multiplier there's no incentive for Uber to keep the multiplier after they get their way with yes on 22. My question is what I'm not sure about, and I need the answer to this. If they were to get the yes on 22, do these changes kick in January or do they kick in November already?
I mean, hey, when it comes to money, it's a quick change to the app.
November.
It all falls to Greedy Uber's bottom line. So you can imagine the pressure they're going to put on their development team to get this implemented just as quickly as humanly possible, because it's big bucks multiplied by the number of drivers.
Big money, huge money. So exactly, time is money. So it'll probably be somewhere in November. Now, what's interesting is you just said
sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, you just mentioned developers, right? So what Dara and the development crew or the engineer crew said, hey, let's create literally a second type of app for California, which is the legal counter to AB5, saying, oh, you know what? We are complying. Look, the people can set their rates. They can make it 1.5, they can make it 2x, so they are independent. But here we talk about the double standards again, because my colleagues in Nevada, my colleagues in Florida, Texas, New York, New Jersey, they're not enjoying these privileges. They're not seeing these $700, $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 days, right? They don't have the multiplier. Yeah. They have these double, and people really need to understand once you lose the trust with a company, right? And again, I always talk about double standards, right? Okay, we'll make some development engineering fixes in California, but you know what? We're not going to offer these type of earnings or possibilities to the rest of the country. So people need to learn from that. If you're a sucker for punishment, right? If you do not learn from past historic mistakes, that the trust has been broken over and over and over again. So if you're voting yes, I'm sorry, I'll tell any driver out there, you're a sucker for punishment. You enjoy the abuse. Okay, what's next? Smack me down. What's next?
Greedy Uber has a track record of misbehaving, and
oh my God, track record! You could publish 15 book series on. I mean, geez, it goes back to all the shenanigans under Travis, and then you thought it would get better when they got Dara, and then it actually just even got worse. Got worse.
Yes, for a while there, it sounded promising.
Yeah.
And that's when I started driving for Uber again, because I had abandoned Uber, and that's when I created the Lyft Drivers of Orange County and helped build Lyft into a significant competitor in Orange County.
Yeah.
And best practices and blah, blah, blah. And then for a while, actually treat drivers respectfully, but then they backslid.
Well,
then they just started misbehaving even worse than before.
Yeah. And I mean, when they brought Dara across, they headhunted him, from where was he, with Experian or whatever, or Travelocity, whichever company it was. The guy, they were branding themselves as the Uber of transport. They went in all directions. Remember, they even had submarines and frickin' Australia, helicopters. Okay, good. So let's say transport. That's it. You're the Uber of transport. But then they started going out into money loans, into freight, into this direction, that direction. I mean, it became a joke, and that's where I, as I'm a CEO on a board of another co-op company in Canada, and I've run a couple of other companies and have my own companies right now. But that's where I lost the trust and the faith in a CEO, and I'm like, oh my God, you all over the map, Dara. I mean, you're just desperately clinging on to everything. You have no direction. It became so scattered.
Shoot anything that moves and hope that you hit something.
Yeah, it's like exactly anything that was moving out there, if we can get our hands on it, let's. And now what you see is that they are selling off all of these divisions. I mean, Elevate's not doing well. Self-driving cars not doing well. I mean, they've just like. There's no direction in this company. And the other thing that always also gives you a good indicator that there's no direction is that they just literally cannot get out of the $35, $36 stock, threshold. They back down to 33, they're up to 34. They came out saying $45. Well, it tanked. It went all the way down to 17, started coming back slowly. But they're not getting any traction, and it's because the people have lost, or the investment world, Wall Street, has lost faith in this. So if the financial world has lost faith in Uber, how can you, California, as a citizen say, hey, this is a wonderful company running these amazing ads, all padded with actors, right? We'll support them. I mean, you supporting a company that's all over the map and that has zero respect for drivers if you're a Californian. So, to me, there's only one solution here. Zero. It's no on 22. And hopefully with the more we say that, the more we get these talking points across, maybe there's someone out there listening who's willing to switch from yes to no. I sincerely hope so.
Well, question number 3 that I have for drivers is Greedy Uber going to limit the number of drivers on the app to minimize unpaid driver wait time? It's also in New York City, they implemented this disabling drivers when there's less demand. And I'm extremely skeptical. This is just you could drive a truck through this loophole. It's so big. It is just such a high risk of Uber using this to manipulate and exploit drivers. Where somebody's in the middle of a shift, and then all of a sudden, that's it. The app's not going to give you any more work, and it could be an hour, could be 2 hours, could be 4 hours, and that's it. You're just like wrecked.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think? Is that something that concerns you?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's just look at past behavior patterns. Like New York is a great indicator, right? I think it's who did they hire? They hired a couple of lobbyists who are very, very well known to write misleading language. They hired 2 San Francisco firms, two guys that have been involved in tons of past ballot propositions. And you truly have to take the time and really go through that and study every line, because I remember right in the opening of our discussion, you were talking about the 120%, right? That people thinking, okay, I'm going to do a 40-hour week, you use LA, $13 plus additional 20, $15. Okay, good. Starting point on 40 hours is $600. And that too many people believe that those are the real numbers. The reality is going to kick in if they get the yes on 22. It's our job to fight and fight and fight for a no. And there's some really cool ads coming out in our favor right now. I saw some good ads, Brad.
Yeah. I've always had this rule of thumb that follow the money. And when you see a group of companies putting $180 million plus into a proposition, by far the most money that's ever put into a proposition in California political history, that's a red flag. That's like, whoa, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
Who stands to benefit? If I vote yes, what does it mean to me personally? How much money is this going to make me or save me, or how much money is this going to cost me?
Right.
And if I vote no, ask yourself the same question.
Right.
How much money is this going to cost me, or how much money is this going to save me?
Yeah.
And then once you've been through that, that's the proper way to assess any proposition, not just Proposition 22, is it going to cost you or is it going to make you money?
Yeah.
And if it's going to cost you, don't support it.
Exactly. So, Brad, I got to rock and roll on to another meeting. I don't want to. I think we've covered everything, but we're going to be.
I think we've covered everything. Yes.
We're going to be connecting soon on. We're going to be connecting soon on another show, right? I mean, we're going to keep it going all the way through.
Oh yeah. There's so much.
A lot of good
shenanigans going on here. We can just talk and talk and talk. So let's cut it here. I agree.
Okay. Cool.
Giving folks something to think about.
Yes.
And hey, if you want to dive into this a little bit deeper, may I invite your audience to come to our website and check out what we do there?
I have it there. I have it right on the screen. Robin Hood, no on 22.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll write it. I'll write it out there as well. I'm going to type it out for them right now. But
there we are.
Thank
you. Put it in the comments below this video.
Yeah. But thank you so much for your time. That was great. I think we got some really, really good points across there. And I just put the URL. I put the link out for everyone. Brad, thank you so much, buddy. You have a great day, huh?
Thanks, Thorsten. You too. Keep up the good work. This is very, very important what you're doing. And I just want to thank you for putting so much time and effort into educating people and making sure they got all the information they need to make a fully informed decision.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day, Brad. You and your family. Appreciate it, buddy. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
So I'm going to jump into the room. I'm going to acknowledge all the people in the house. Got Todd. Welcome to K's Nation. Scott Tucker, Slick Nick, Rick Nelson, Kenneth Black, Nifty 50. All the brothers and sisters in the house here. Mario Sadia, South Coast Ride. Oh, South Coast Ride. You had a phenomenal Saturday, right? You had a phenomenal Saturday, I believe, in Newport Beach. Is that correct? Maybe you could confirm that for us. I believe you made something like $700 and you tested that 5X. You stuck with 5X. If I can recall the numbers, I think you did about 17 hours of, or you did 17 trips. And you came out making $700. And this is someone driving in the OC. The numbers that I gave you prior to that, the gentleman making $816 was in LA. And here you say, what's up, Thorsten, power on. It's a 5X Wednesday. So it sounds like you're off to a great start on your Wednesday. I just hope that this multiplier keeps on going beyond November. And I truly hope it reaches the shores of drivers like Scott Tucker in Nevada. Now, Scott, I will reach out to you separately. have another client who in 2009 had a bankruptcy showing up on the credit report. I wanted to talk to you about what the things one can do to wipe out past blemishes for this individual. So MarketWatch, I just got another text message here from MarketWatch. Uber has offered BMW and Daimler 1.2 billion for its ride-sharing rival, according to reports. So that's breaking news. Uber has offered BMW and Daimler $1.2 billion for its ride-sharing rival. Now, if the CEO of Daimler, if the CEO of BMW is listening in, they're both Germans, they're overseas in Stuttgart, Germany. I've been there, been at those branches there. Ich will Ihnen nur eines sagen. Wenn Sie mit Uber Geschäfte machen, haben Sie Probleme. Ja? Ich würde so weit entfernt von dieser Firma bleiben, dass wird Ihnen in der Zukunft es wird die bessere Entscheidung sein, sich von Uber zu trennen. Ja. Sie wollen nicht eine Firma an Bord nehmen, die unendliche Probleme mit sich zieht. Ihr Name, BMW oder Mercedes-Benz, wird dementsprechend runtergehen, wenn sie irgendwelche Geschäfte machen mit Uber. So that was my German message to those two German CEOs, right? Anonymous Giraffe, hello. Slicknick says, I tried running high multiplier for a few hours and only made 29 with 3 trips. Okay, it depends probably when you started your shift, right? And if you do it for a few hours and you're not getting any hits, these type of shifts are usually in the evenings, right into the early mornings when people need to get home and there's not many people on the road. So you might have hit that at a time where there were a lot of drivers on the morning, maybe an early morning shift, and people could pick and choose their rates, right? You want to do this in sort of like the graveyard shift hours or the busy Friday or Saturday nights. Cool. So Scott Tucker said, okay. Chris Tonek is in the house. Curious, I was in the OC at 3X and it was not that good. Costa Mesa, Newport, Irvine. Today? Or what time slots? Yeah, Nifty, do you speak German? I speak a couple of languages, so it's always good. Nobody can really talk behind your back, right? It's cool. So if you're listening into a conversation and you speak their lingo, it's great. 7 days. You're running it on 7 days down there. Well, I should put you together with South Coast Rides because he's doing extremely well with the multiplier. Good. Oh, you're multilingual. Awesome. Cool. So you understood a lot of what I was talking about there, right? So let me just trying to get my little mouse activated here. We did one ride this morning, 4.3 after tip, 226 today. That's super impressive. That's really, really, really impressive. Trying to get out of this screen. Si habla un poquito más. Good. I don't know why I cannot X out of this screen for some freaking reason. Trying to get out of. All right. Because I did want to click to another screen. Not having the best of luck here. What's your what's the highest amount on a trip anyone has made with the multiplier? What's like a trip where you can say, wow, this one was a big fish? And obviously I'm talking to Californians here, right? Yeah, I tried. There we go. There we go. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I have a lot of programs running on this. Over $40 with the multiplier. What did you set it at? Did you go in pretty? So Anonymous Giraffe made $6.59 plus $100 tip. Damn, that's for one ride, right? See, they're probably dealing with a businessman that really had to get somewhere. You know, good for you. Good for you. Bum, 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 bum. Interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. All right, my friends. So we will call it a day here. Hustling away, got a lot to do. Have lunch served, and then I got to take another phone call. But we covered a lot. A quick shout out to sponsor Cover, Kover. I'll put the link below. They offer a gig protection plan starting at $7 a month. Well worth it, right? I'm not sure if anyone here has signed up with Cover. I'm on board with them because all it takes is one silly report by a rider, and you're out of the game. And we don't want that to happen. These guys will get you back in the mix, right? They have a partner called Legal Rideshare, and they will go out batting for you. Legal Rideshare, on the other hand, a law firm up in Chicago. Several of my subscribers have already contacted Legal Rideshare. You know, the statute of limitations on accidents, injuries, cars, etc., is 3 years. So you can take legal action in those 3 years. Scott Tucker says my biggest was $350 from Nevada to California without the multiplier. That's impressive. That's impressive. Trying to. All right, a couple of little tech issues here. All right, my friends, I wish you a fantastic Wednesday. Thanks to Brad for being on the show. And I will be back with another live feed and several other cool topics tomorrow. I appreciate your Roy Watkus just walked in as I'm walking out. Greetings from Las Vegas. We've got a couple of Vegas drivers in the house. I truly hope, Scott, I truly hope, Roy, that you will one day get to try out this multiplier everyone is talking about, right? I mean, it would only be fair that other drivers get to enjoy those type of privileges that are just there temporarily. But people right now are making very good money. Just ask Anonymous Giraffe, ask South Coast Rides. People that are using the multiplier are actually making money. Even my colleagues down in San Diego making great money, Orange County, LA, across the board, north to south, California, people are doing very, very well on the multiplier once they know how to use it. and those type of privileges need to be extended to the neighboring states. Slick Nick, I'll see you later. I appreciate everyone. Thank you again. Disinfect your cars, wear those masks, and we will reconvene soon. Have a great one.